The question I think that everybody wants to know, do I regret selling all of my Panasonic gear? This is the last piece right here. No, no, I don't regret selling it because it wasn't delivering on the focusing the way that I wanted to deliver on. But I can tell you that the Sony isn't delivering in so many ways that the Panasonic did. Now that I've had a few more days with it, shot a few more videos, it's really opened my eyes to like the compromises that I'm having to make by going to this system. Now, I'm still happy that I went to the system because being able to do videos like this where I don't even have to worry about if I move up, I'm in focus. If I move back, I'm in focus. I know that the camera is going to make sure that I'm always in focus. And that was the thing that was driving me crazy the odd time on the Panasonic was sometimes it would just miss. And that wasn't okay because I felt like that was taking away from the story. Now, this one I think delivers better on the storytelling aspects of what I want to be able to do, especially for vlogging these kind of tech videos. But there are so many other things outside of that that now I have to worry about a lot more to deliver on that storytelling. And let me talk a little bit about that. So the camera itself is amazing in that having that bigger sensor size, this is it's a crop sensor, which is bigger than the Micro Four Thirds sensor. And so what that means is it can capture a little bit more light because it's a bigger sensor, it gathers more light. And it also is able to blur the background a little bit more. And I really like that. That makes it a little bit more cinematic that we can be here talking and I'm at 2.8 and the background's blurry on a 20 millimeter lens. But that side I think ends up helping me in telling the stories and that's nice and that's a little bit harder to do on Micro Four Thirds. Also, that bigger sensor, I feel like even though we're shooting like typically the vlogs with similar lenses, this is a 10 to 18 millimeter on the Panasonic, I had the 7 to 14 millimeter, ultra wide angle f4 lenses. I don't have like side-by-side comparison data, but I feel like this one's a little better in the lower light. And when you're pushing the ISO a little bit harder, it ends up being a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. That's neither really here nor there, but storytelling wise and the quality of what's coming out of this camera, I'm happy with it. But to get there, you have to deal with a battery that really doesn't last that long. Like the last vlog I shot for about 30 minutes, not even straight, but I shot a number of little sequences and then I attached it to my car and shot for probably 6 or 7 minutes. This was in, 4K. But by the time I got to the photo store and did another little clip, I'm like, I've been shooting for like 30 minutes and I'm down to like 30% battery life. And that's kind of rough. Now, you can get around that. I went on Amazon and ordered 2 extra batteries with a double charger for $50. And so I'm okay for batteries. I can probably shoot for about, 3 hours or so, something like that. That should be enough for what I need. But should you have to do that? Well, you're just swapping batteries a little bit more. I know on the G85, which doesn't even have as big of a battery as like a GH4 or a GH5, most days I could shoot all day with one battery. The odd time you wouldn't get it, or if it was a big event where I was shooting tons, then, I'd bring 2 or 3 batteries, but I can tell you the battery life on this is not going to be as good. When we talk about the screen, the G85 has that amazing flip-out screen, or a GH5 or a GH4. They have those great flip-out screen, and it's so responsive, and you can get all the menu settings on there, which is kind of nice when you're like looking at the camera, you flip out the screen, and then you're editing stuff on the menu. This one, obviously, you don't get the flip-out screen, but also the touchscreen on it doesn't actually work for any of the menus, so you have to use the buttons. Now, that's not like the end of the world, but it's not as fast as being able to tap. You have to use the dial and, go through the settings. So it's a little bit more work on your end. What else? I mean, the size of it's nice because it's very, very compact. The batteries they put in it don't end up being as big. There's that. There's like some minor nuances where I'm like, they just haven't thought through this process as well. It seems small, but speaking of small, the record button on the a6500 is teeny tiny, and it's on the side, and it's like they didn't accidentally want you to push the record button, but it's like very difficult to get at. And when it's noisy and I can't hear the beep sometimes, and you can't see the screen to know, I'm like, I hope I hit record. And so far, I've been okay, but I'm worried sometime I'm just gonna not quite push it right. And they lock out using the shutter button on the top for starting to record, which on Panasonic, no problem. You just hit that and you can record. You can also use a half press to focus, but they don't let you. And when you're in a movie mode and you hit the shutter button, all it does is come up with a thing that says, hey, you can't use the shutter button in movie mode. it's only for photos. It just doesn't make sense in that way. And there's been, a couple of little things where I'm like, they just haven't really thought through this yet. They're not into the video side as deep as Panasonic is, but it delivers on the focusing, and that's really nice. The other thing I'm finding out is this Sony platform and the compatibility between things is not quite all there yet. I bought this 16mm f2.8 pancake lens, which I thought was going to be the lens that I'd kind of like, if I'm going out and about not strictly vlogging, I would just leave it on the camera. I can shoot this style of video where I talk to the camera, I can take cool photos, and I thought, like, this is going to be a great lens. Until I found out that the focusing on that lens is not compatible with the phase detection side of focusing on the Sony cameras, which is what makes the focusing so good, is they've got phase detection mixed with this contrast detection. Panasonic only has this thing, Sony's got both, they put them together. Well, with that lens, you can only use the phase detection, so you're back to the Panasonic focusing systems. Why? So I had to upgrade to this 20mm lens, which is what I'm shooting on right now, and I really like it. But in the research, it was like, this lens is compatible with the focusing on the a6500, but it sounds like it isn't compatible with the a6300, which, bizarre again. And, like, I'm going to buy a second camera body, but now, like, I have to be careful. And, there's a little bit more to navigate in that platform of, you really got to be sharper on the tech side to be able to make this work, because you don't have a flip-out screen to make sure that you're going to be positioned well and in focus. So you got to have the depth of understanding to know how to do that, or other monitors, or, some other ways around that. So there's a lot of compromises, I would say, with this. Again, there is no one perfect camera. If Panasonic would put that great phase detection system in there, mix it in, I think they'd really, really, really be onto something. You still have a smaller sensor size, so maybe not quite as good in low light, but I never actually ran into problems with that, having problems in low light. So what am I gonna do? I was in the photo store where I bought the camera and lenses from. They were asking me, are you gonna keep it? Because when I bought it, I said, I'm not sure I'm gonna keep it. And I said, yeah, I think I'm gonna keep it. And I still think that I am gonna keep it, but I don't know, like, I've been looking at the A7R2, which is the big full-frame monster, which is crazy expensive, but the problem with that camera is that it doesn't have the in-body image stabilization, which helps smooth out the footage. And then the A7S2 has the in-body image stabilization, but they don't have the good focusing system in it, so neither of those are really options I want to spend like $4,000 on a body on here in Canada. There's a new A7 Mark III or whatever coming out, I think in a week or two, or being announced at NAB. I might look at that. So maybe I'll go down that path. Something else that just jogged my memory with the Sony is the in-body image stabilization in it is not as good as Panasonic's. I think they say 2.5 stops worth of, whatever, image stabilization. The Panasonic is closer to 4, and the Panasonic's just feels a lot smoother. Some of that could have been how small the body is. They just couldn't give it that same range of motion to move the sensor. But even this lens has image stabilization, and the body has image stabilization. I don't feel like it's as smooth an image as the G85 with the 7-14 with no image stabilization. So there's that. There's the rolling shutter on the Sony, which basically it doesn't have enough processing power when you're shooting at 4K to grab full images off the sensor all the time. So what it does is it actually goes through them kind of line by line really, really quickly. But if you're moving the camera and they're straight things, it reads this line, it goes to the next line, and the object is moved slightly, and it ends up, that's what rolling shutter is, where your straight lines end up looking a little bit crooked. It also has this little bit of like a jello-y effect. If you go watch yesterday's vlog, if you're curious about this, go look at the scene where I'm in Staples and I've got it on the shopping cart, and there's just like a little bit of vibration, and it makes it look like really weird jello-y something. That's also kind of the issue with the rolling shutter. Now, it didn't affect 98% of the vlog, but for that one shot I thought, that's kind of weird, so I don't know, you guys. It's tough to know what to do. I don't regret selling my other stuff because this is part of the learning process, and I've been really happy with these cameras, especially for like these kind of videos. And I did that whole session where I walked through like, here's what aperture is, here's what shutter speed is, here's what ISO is, here's how to shoot in full manual, and the camera worked great for that kind of stuff. Like great, I kind of like positioned it, set it, it was good to go. I was really happy for that. For vlogging, honestly, I don't know that it, especially if you're starting out, it is not as good of a vlogging camera as the G85 is, because the G85 gives you that screen, you can frame it up, you can go on much more of a learning process with it. you might be out of focus the odd time here or there, and you see a guy like Casey Neistat, he's now vlogging with the G85, and some of his shots I'm going, the camera missed the focus, you know, but most of the time it's good. And if you watch my vlogs, you found like I made a way for it to get in focus. It required a little bit of effort. The Sony also requires a little bit of effort in some different ways. So if you're starting out and learning, I'd say the G7 or the G85, they're fantastic options. They're cheaper. They have that selfie screen that's going to help you frame everything up and learn quicker. The touch screen is better. The battery life is better. There's just going to be less things to worry about, and you'll go on the learning journey. So I think that's where I'm at right now. This is still working for me. I wish it was better, but as they say in Grumpy Old Men, you can wish in one hand, you can crap in the other, and see which one gets filled first. So you're on to something, Sony. You got a little bit of work to do. Panasonic, you're still crushing. Just fix your focusing system. It'd be so easy. That's what I got. I'm Dustin Rivas. Thanks for watching.